As far as enhancing in Photoshop goes, you can see that I've taken this one through a lot of different layers, but ended up by making a selection and jumping this to a new layer, so that if I hold down Option and click on this, you can see that I've just selected this one single layer, copied it, put it into another Photoshop file, did a Gaussian blur trick that I'll show you on the project we worked with, and then just merged that and put a hue and saturation layer in order to colorize it, to add some detail. I've asked Michael for color options for, perhaps analogous colors that could work with the strokes and the fills to give some variation. Right now, all we have is black and white, or, one color for the stroke and one color for the fill. And that's not a lot of room for getting creative here. So let's just jump back over here and let me show you that Gaussian blur trick. If I jump this to a new layer, Command J, but that's a bad habit because depending upon what you're jumping, doesn't always work right. So that's where the Shift Option Command N, Shift Option Command E, or even better, just hold down Shift Option Command, tap N, tap E, and you have merged everything on a brand new layer. Then I've got this handy dandy shortcut that I set up, and I'm going to show you guys more about setting up custom keyboard shortcuts. But on this layer, go under Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. And then I have this set fairly low. Because of the size of this, you can set this however you want, but this is 5.5 pixels. Click OK, and then I want to change the opacity. Well, first I want to change the blend mode from normal to darken. Darken seems to do the trick with this Gaussian blur. Notice how we have so much more density, but things are getting out of focus. So if I hit the number 5, that is 50% opacity. If I hit 55, quickly, it's 55%. So here's 30%, 80%, back to 50%. Now, what did that really do? Now, you can see that there's without and there's with. It just adds a little density to this, and then dropping a hue and saturation adjustment layer on it, clicking this colorize checkbox, and then picking some color. And yeah, you can play around with lights and darks and saturations, but the default settings work fairly well. And then you could always take this back through Camera Raw. But this here is before. I'm going to hold down Option and click on this visibility icon to turn off everything but the bottommost layer. And then still holding down Option, I'm going to click it again to take us back to where we got. So is this better? Is it worse? Is it an improvement? It's all seasoned to taste. There's so many things you can do, but there's a couple little quick tricks that, depending upon the density, every image is different. On some, this works great. I think this is, in fact, an improvement. And on others, not so good. So it's always a matter of adding to your toolbox, having more skills and techniques to pull from and strategies, and continually practicing. Make these skills your own. These skills we are going to use for the rest of the year. It's not we learn it for this week's test and we're done and we're moving on. We continually build our skill sets. Look around at the walls. Wouldn't you like to create some epic work? And I know some of you are thinking, what's this have to do with adding flames to a car or whatever it is you want to do? Well, the skills, the techniques, the way you can begin to think in Illustrator and Photoshop and know how the two programs can work together, the better you're going to be at whatever it is you want to learn. Believe it or not, this is all interconnected. I can't tell you how much the kids who work on this are going to experience this little infinity loop where things just keep happening and growing. And the rest of you are going to be You know, this lone circle that's sitting right here. What in the world am I doing here? I wish I wasn't in here. And to tell you the truth, if I'm doing this again in Illustrator, I'm going to delete that circle because that is something that just doesn't belong. If you want to belong, all you got to do is work. Work day in, day out. Try your best. Don't give up. Learn from your mistakes and play by the rules. Yeah, that sounds so familiar. Where have I heard that before?